Hey, Karita here, back with habit number 7 out of the seven habits of highly effective dance educators. This is a fun kind of take on Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And here we are at the final one. To check out the other ones, habits 1 through 6 because they lead up to this point, right? Habit number 7 is called sharpen the saw. Sharpen the saw that cuts, right? We think about it very plainly. What good is a dull saw? What good is a dull knife, right? What good is a dull saw? So you can imagine a saw getting older or being more used, or the teeth getting dull, or it's starting to bend or warp. And there you are with that log and you're trying to cut it. And it's like, right, this is really what it's about. So the idea is that we want to continue to keep ourselves sharp. That part of the process of being a good saw, if it is, if you will, is to stop cutting and sharpen, right? So stop what you're doing and sharpen, right? And that's a part of the work. I am still, this whole series is called Take Your Own Advice, Karita, like in the back of my head. Like for me to actually stop and go through process and sharpen my saw, I'm like, that's a part of the process. It's not just go till you drop, right? It's not just go till you're burnt out, right? And so that's where I'm like, oh, take your own advice, Karita, right? So the idea of it is about two things. Sharpening the saw is about renewal. And that's usually the way I think about it. But I went back to the book again. I went back to the ideas again. It's also about improvement. I was like, yes. Okay. So we're looking at it in two ways. So we're thinking about sharpening our saw as dance educators or as human beings, as parents, as spouses, as partners, roommates, whatever it is. We are thinking about it as renewal, right? Recreating ourselves, recreation, right? Renewing ourselves and improving ourselves as dance educators. So I'd like to think about that in those two ways: renewal, improvement. How do we get better? Yes. So, one, how do we keep our skills up? But then, how do we really take everything up a notch from where we already are so that we're in this upward spiral of growth, is what Dr. Covey would call it. So, he takes that in a few different areas. So certainly for us as dance educators, we can relate to that of like feeling we're in a rut or burnt out. And certainly this past year, there's been so much of that because all these different modes of teaching, whether it's like you're hyperventilating behind a mask in studio, or you're teaching squares, people trying to connect with people and timing and all this stuff over online, it can be so challenging and it's extra draining. So how do we take extra care of ourselves, right? This is the question. So we can think about it in multiple ways. We can think about it physically, right? Actually, today I got my plantar fasciitis diagnosis today, and I'm like, here I am taking my own advice with trying to deal with this plantar fasciitis. Ah, um, but yes, so it's like self care, physically speaking. If you're going into the studio, I remember going into the studio and having 6 classes to teach in a row. What are my snacks? What's my water? What's my stuff that's going to keep me fresh by class 4, class 5, class 6? Like, how am I going to keep my energy up? Am I resting the night before? Like, all of those really practical things that are important for us physically. Do I stretch after I teach? Oh, when it's like all you're ready to do is go or be done. It's like to actually take time to stretch or roll. I had not been rolling my feet, thus the fasciitis. I used to be very good about like rolling my feet and I haven't been doing that. So here I am, like, again, taking my own advice. So we think about sharpening the saw physically for us as dance educators. This is huge because our bodies, are so much a part of what we do, right? So then we think about mentally, how are we sharpening the saw? So the idea that we continue to learn and how to become better educators is a huge deal. And I'm super passionate about that. Certainly the people that I've been working with in the race and dance history work are really spending a lot of time in that space and looking at teaching approaches and finding ways to improve upon them. Right. So it's not just about renewal, but it's also about improvement. Remember, in terms of sharpening the saw. So, how can we improve? How can we make our dance education more holistic? And so many more people are asking that amazing question right now. And so, it's this way that dance educators are mentally stepping up to the plate in a new way. Socially, emotionally, what are we all doing? How are we connecting, especially in this time? I think generally as dance educators, it's an isolating kind of work in the sense that we're the only educator in the space, right? Like, we're the ones running the class. Maybe you have a partner, but it's very, it's like you and your students. You're in there with your students, so there's a social aspect. But in terms of really connecting with fellow educators, now a lot of that happens on social media, but it's not. It can be healthy out there, but sometimes not so much, right? It can be a little bit negative and like, "Ooh, you teach like that?" It's like, wait, 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 wait. Like, where's the upliftment? Like, where's that part of it? We need support, right? So it's like, how are we connecting, networking, building, and establishing those connections with fellow dance educators? And then certainly spiritually, like, how are we sharpening the saw? Like, I've had people ask me, like, Karina, what are you doing? Do you like pray? Do you meditate? Do you like do mindfulness? Do you do yoga? And I'm like, yes, yes, all the things. And I'm still like looking for more. Like, we are in intense times. It requires an intensity. Like, I think for me, it requires more renewal, more breaks, more rest in some ways for me to continue to be able to step out and do all the things that I love to do. And there's so many aspects of dance and dance education that I love. And so for me, given that, I'm also a mom to two small kids, my husband and I are juggling so much that I have to figure out these times of like, this is a sharpen the saw time, right? And that sharpening the saw is a part of my job. Like, I'm still putting that in my head, that the sharpening the saw is a part of my job. We think about the professional development that way, right? Like, oh, I'm going to, do this training, or I'm going to take this seminar. We think about that as like professional development. But the idea that we rest, that we recuperate, that we go out and we take class as a student, not to like go get other people's ideas, but to just go take class and be, students and just love dancing, or just get on the floor and improvise, or, just enjoy being dancers, as a part of sharpening the saw, like for us creatively. I think there's so many different ways that we can think about it, but to think about those things not as being like selfish or lazy. This is me in my head, like that these are a part of the work. That these things are a part of the work, and that if I want to continue to offer these things in my career, then I need to be sharpening the saw. I have become so passionate about this for dance educators. When we were students, think about, like, us as dance students, so much of it was about us, right? It's like there's somebody there to give you feedback. There's somebody there to let you know when you're doing great work. Like, there's, people have eyes on you, asking you questions, getting you, it's like drawing you out and, helping to bring out the best in you as a dancer. And so that so much of it is so much of that treatment and those opportunities are why we're dance educators in the first place. It's not because we learned how to dance from a YouTube channel or something like that, right? We became teachers because we had people there to support us, guide us. Sally Mack was one of my main teachers, and I can think of so many others, from the time I moved to New York, that really just continue to draw the best out of me. And when you come into a class as a student, you get that. But as an educator, where do we go for support? Where do we go for like constructive feedback? That's not what we get, like at a dance competition, or, the student showcase that our students perform at. Those things aren't about us. Um, where do we get that feedback? How do we get that feedback? When we teach in these isolated, like I teach in these four walls, this person's teaching over there across the hall in those four walls. How do we get that? And so much of what I have created as far as teacher training programs has been to offer teachers that opportunity to get support, to get feedback, to be reinvigorated, to be inspired, to have a chance to really improve, to like sharpen the saw. I'm like, hey, like this is something I realized as I was working on this, that this is exactly what my programs are about. Like my tap teacher training program, I can't tell you how many teachers have come through it and are like, I found my love for teaching again. I came into the program, I was in a rut. I've been teaching for 30 years and I'm rejuvenated. Therefore, my TAP program is also rejuvenated. And there's people that have come through my program that are newer teachers, younger teachers that are like, I'm improving. There was so much I didn't know that I didn't know because I learned from my one teacher. We're in this one location. We didn't get out and get here and there and get all that kind of stuff, but I'm realizing how much I didn't know. And now I'm improving. Now my program is on fire. Like people are excited about it. I had this one email me, one of the teachers in my program, and she said, I feel more respected as a teacher now. I like cried. I was like, okay. Like it's one of those things that encourage me to keep going because it's like, that's what I want teachers to feel. I want teachers to be walking into the space inspired, confident, like, and having parents and having students of all ages to be so excited about the chance to get to work with you. Because that's another kind of energy that renews us, right? Lord knows we ain't in it for the money, right? So it's like we're in it, to bring the best out of our students and so that they can grow and that their eyes can light up and that they can have a joy and a community and a growth and a level of excellence that all these different things that we're looking to offer to our students. But who's there to support us as teachers to like bring that out in us? So whether it's my tap teacher training program or the roots rhythm race and dance program where I'm working with people more on like the cerebral part of things, as far as race and dance history goes, it's just so rewarding for me, this particular part of my work, and it just makes me think. I think over and over again, like, Simone Biles has a coach, right? So if Simone Biles has a coach, you know, dance teachers, dance educators can have a coach, right? Can get some support that will help them to sharpen the saw, to help with that habit number 7, right? And that is, again, what I'm so passionate about. If you want to know more about my work, check out my website, karitagriffith.com. I have some free resources on my website for tap dance stuff, for race and dance history stuff. Check that out. And sharpen the saw. I am going to do that. Once I stop this recording, I'm going to take some relaxation, enjoy these slides I have on that are helping me to deal with this plantar fasciitis situation that I've developed so I can take care of myself and so that I can continue to offer whatever I can for my fellow dance educators out there. It's one of the things that inspires me oh so much. If there are any things that you want me to talk about, I have some other ideas coming up, but if you have other topics that you would love to hear more about, hit me in the DMs on Instagram at Karita Griffith Dance. You can hit me in my comments on YouTube or through my website, karitagriffith.com. Let me know what you want to talk about, and I will be happy to bring those topics to the forefront. So go sharpen the sauce. You can go out there and continue to crush it, kill the game with your dance classes, and continue to bring out the very best in your students while continuing to bring out the very best in yourself. All right, have a great one.